Welcome to the Postgame with super producer Matt Leck, chief economist David Griscom, super producer David Slavic. He's not here, but with us in spirit. Welcome, patrons. We love each and every one of you. Bear with us. We're still mastering our Patreon game. Everything will be posted in a timely manner. Don't you worry. What is that? I don't even. Just fucking. We've got to get to your calls. We've got to get to your Discord questions. We've got some serious things to get to, but don't worry. This is going to be a fun post game. I mean, they're always fun post games, but sometimes these post games we hit with so many combination punches. Like we're within 5 minutes talking about a Breakfast Club interview or playing F, Marry, Kill, and then breaking down the new austerity policies in Argentina or China's march across Africa. There's so much going on. That's the richness of the TMBS experience. But we're going to start up front with dessert tonight. I think it's time. And I also just have to say up front, just in the same way that we replayed Jordan Peterson crying for weeks and weeks and weeks with no real justification. In retrospect now, I realized that I would pretty much end the segment and just be like, hey, Matt, can we laugh at Jordan Peterson crying again, please? And then Matt and David would be like, yeah, that actually sounds like a good idea. In that same spirit, for a second week running, because I think this is relevant for us as people who are contending with the public menace that is Jordan Peterson. He's told us what his Achilles heel is. He's told us what his, I guess we can't say kryptonite because he's not Superman. He's obviously more of a comic book villain. But he has told us what the anecdote is. If we take this clip literally, apple cider consumption might be what saves us from the arch reactionary of our time. This is Jordan Peterson once again telling us about the utter terror of apple cider.
One of the things that both Michaela and I noticed was that when we restricted our diet and then ate something we weren't supposed to, the reaction to eating what we weren't supposed to was absolutely catastrophic.
What did you do? What did you switch to? Or what did you eat, rather?
Well, the worst response, I think we're allergic, whatever the hell this is, having an inflammatory response to something called sulfites. And we had some apple cider that had sulfites in it, and that was really not good. Like, I was done for a month. That was the first time I talked to Sam Harris.
You were done for a month?
Oh, yeah. It took me out for a month. It was awful.
Pause it.
Really?
Yeah.
To be fair, imagine you're feeling a little bit down from sulfites, and then you get on the phone with that dreary, gormless motherfucker, Sam Harris, and you're just like, ugh, I don't feel great. And then all of a sudden it's just like, but that's literally not true. Like, it is an objective statement that I have a massive Golden Girls trust fund. That is truth, and the history is irrelevant.
That's not what I said.
That's not what I said. You took me out of context. Sam, I'm feeling a little out of it from the sulfites, but you literally just said that you had a Golden Girls trust fund 2 minutes ago. I didn't say that, and it's malicious to say that what I did said, but take out of context what I did said. And if you want to take that into a full context, you need to read 30 blog post links that I'm sending you right now. And if you don't, it's malicious. All right.
Yeah, so I would say,
so this is right before this whole truth conversation with Sam Harris that got stuck in the mud. During.
I think the day I talked to Sam was like the worst day of my life. Not because of talking to Sam, but it was
just physically.
Oh, Jesus, I was so dead. But I didn't want to not do it. Because
apple cider. Like, what was it doing?
Sulfites in it.
What was it doing to you?
Oh, it produced an overwhelming sense of impending doom. And I seriously mean overwhelming. Like, there's no way I could have lived like that if that would have lasted for See, Michaela knew by that point that it would probably only last a month, and I was like,
A month?
yeah, a month.
Fucking cider.
Oh, I didn't sleep that month. I didn't sleep for 25 days.
Yeah, you would be
I didn't
dead.
sleep
What?
at all.
You would be
I didn't
dead.
sleep at all for 25 days.
Yeah.
How is that possible? That
I'll
should
tell
kill
you how it's possible. You lay in bed, frozen in something approximating terror for 8 hours, and then you get up.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, not
And
good.
this is
So
from fucking cider. From
that's what we thought. Yeah.
So we have a new bit that we've been cooking up, which is Jordan Peterson in a stereotypical cheerleader voice. And we wanted to test spin it and see if it worked. So we'll just go around the horn here and start with like, what did cider do to me? How about an impending sense of terror and doom? Like, I couldn't sleep for literally like a month. And then Sam Harris wanted to talk about truth, and like, he's a really cool guy, and like, we make money together and whatnot, but like, I could not like lift my arms.
The funny thing he does there is he takes any sort of hinted skepticism as like he's asking for further detail.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, you want to know more about it? You fucking meathead. More. He's also, I like how he's like doing a little bit of subtext, like, oh, you don't know about sulfite, you fucking gorilla? I'll tell you, you big dumb fuck.
25 days? Yeah, we thought it would. Yeah, my daughter thought it'd only be 25 days. Rogan's like, 25 days? Like, only be 25 days? What are you talking about?
Yeah, my daughter predicted that neither of us would sleep for 2 weeks because we both don't know how fucking serious cider is. What part of this are you not understanding, you big, dumb, roided-up monkey motherfucker? Best defense, good offense.
Yeah, I've been breaking out into fever sweats every night for the past month, and I'm pretty sure it has nothing to do with my all T-bone steak diet, and it's all the cider that I had earlier in the month.
So basically, I eat beef jerky. I've turned my class into an induction seminar for weird self-help, borderline fascistic knockoff Jungian theories. I only eat T-bone steaks, and having a glass of cider, if you took me literally, has produced such a state of hysteria in me that it's actually allowed me to live through the physically impossible. And the conclusion that I draw from all of that as a psychiatrist, as a psychologist, is that I should travel the Western world and teach young men how to live.
In that time that I wasn't sleeping for 25 days because of a glass of cider, I live streamed for about 500 hours. And
it actually produced some great insights about different ways that I could harass people because of their gender identities.
If this Jordan Peterson thing just ends with him becoming like the next David Avocado Wolf.
Oh, that would be cool. But no, he wouldn't be David Avocado Wolf, because David Avocado Wolf's a vegan, right?
Yeah.
David Avocado Wolf's like, man, you can just like live off like and just taste the sea salt and a little bit of avocado, man. But Jordan Peterson's more like, you eat beef jerky 24 hours, and if Michaela and I lose track of our diet, then do something like, forget it, cider. That's really pushing it to the max. I like how like in the like Jordan Peterson mythology, cider is like, it's like heron.
it's like ayahuasca.
It's like we have to cleanse ourselves in preparation for the cider ceremony.
I went into the sweat lodge, and they were boiling cider over the fire. And
I was inducted into a sweat lodge by a Native American. Oh, a reporter said otherwise? Well, fuck them. I'm to go on a goddamn Twitter tirade.
I was going to say Sam Harris. Jordan Peterson was drinking cider with the friend of his that, what's his name, said was his native companion.
Pankaj Mishra.
Yeah, Pankaj Mishra. And Jordan Peterson thought it was some sort of transcendental, like, coming of age ceremony.
I was initiated into Ojibwa. My friend Joe Wandering's elk, he poured me a glass of apple cider, which, as you might know, is actually a sacrament for the native peoples of the plains of Washington. And when we sipped in the sulfites, I wasn't able to sleep for 6 months, but it did disclose a prophecy that transgender Maoists were going to end Western democracy. So I knew I needed to pump out more YouTube videos. We're making stupid money, aren't we, Joe? How's the On It business going? I actually like that. That's a good different direction to take it. What it's like the insanity and just cynicism just actually meet like the perfect and that's when I realized that if we said Western democracy would come to an end, which also brings me to On It. Just some of the best brain force supplements you can get in the market. Joe's giving me a 10% discount on those every time I sell it to one of the dumb, gullible kids that overpaid for a ticket for one of my ridiculous performances with Dave Rubin. It's really interesting in this stage of the market economy how profitable just being objectively mentally ill and emotionally disturbed is. Ironically, especially if you're a psychologist.
Well, that's the thing is I think there's certain people that are acting in public life that have gone through the sort of when you're driving and you hit those things in the bump strips on the side of the road, it's like,
yep.
There's certain people who, when they've gone over those, it's meant money. Oh, Charles Murray, there's a bunch of cash. There's Islam. Let's talk about torture and how Muslims are pathological.
Right.
Oh, look at all the,
yep.
and they just keep they just.
This is good for analytics.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. You're calling from a 708 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hello, Michael. This is Dragonflayer 19. How's everyone doing tonight?
We are doing well. Welcome to the postgame, my friend.
Thank you. So I wanted to take a moment to really show my appreciation for David Griscom and all that he's really brought to the Michael Brooks Show, because I really appreciate his Griscom Minute, and one of the things I really like is all the little theory videos that he posts onto the website.
His little theory videos, yes.
Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to talk about how the one I really liked was the one that he just posted, I believe, yesterday or the day before, a YouTube video called 9/11 Physics Debates. In 2014 and 2015, no PhDs in physics are willing to defend the Bush story of 9/11.
Wait, David,
and
what the hell are you posting on my
There's
site?
There's a story behind this.
Holes in NIST's theory.
What the fuck is going on?
I really just like Griscom's take on how the three fundamental laws proposed by Newton could not have been fulfilled by that building coming down, and the fact that apparently no other steel-framed high-rise building in the history of mankind has collapsed simply as a result of fire. And I really would like Griscom to kind of expand on these ideas on the show, because I think people need to know the truth. Anyways,
Jade Hoy is the
Mike.
Conspiracy theorist of our world, our brother over at Camp the Dinks. David, what the hell's going on?
People definitely need to know the truth. And Matt, if type in my name, David Griscom, on Google, and look around. So there is another David Griscom who might be a little bit more famous than I am. And
Are you serious?
yeah. If you go down, you can find his whole webpage. It's pretty epic. But he is I think he was a Harvard educated physicist, and you could tell he got famous in the mid 2000s by his website.
Yeah, this is definitely very GeoCities.
But he was a physicist, PhD, and became a very famous 9/11 truther for years.
It's always guys like this too. It's always they've got a certain type of credential, and then they just post the most exactly. Wow, and David getting ready for an economic minute here.
I don't know if there is a direct relation.
Look at that! Look at that split! Oh my God! I don't even know who is the powdered wig guy. Who is that? Do we know who that is?
I can't read the quote even.
Wasn't that Newton?
I think in Newton. It's
every
literally a triple. For those listening, it's Newton, David Griscom, PhD, Brown University, NASA, NRL, DARPA, and then just 9/11 debate with a picture of a smoldering towers. Jesus Christ. Oh, we are a really troubled culture.
Now, I will say that I think I have finally overtaken him, at least than I'm the first few results.
Good.
But for a while when I was
TMBS Army, baby.
when I was first writing, especially when I was just writing for Counterpunch before I was on the Michael Brooks show, I always felt like it was a little too close because there is.
Oh yeah, Counterpunch will publish that.
So there's like this 9/11 truther physicist who's now like very interested in economic inequality.
Yeah. It's like it was the economy that drove it. I defy you.
So every once in a while, I send out a tweet to all my followers to just apologize that I, in case they were following me to get some hot truther information, that I am not the famous physicist David L. Griscom, PhD.
I
love it.
Not to get down on that, but the whole Building 7 theory, right? Like the idea that what's the theory that like they crashed planes into the two buildings, but they also wanted that one to blow up, so they just demolished it. Like, why don't you? Yeah, never mind.
I know. I mean, at this point, it's always really funny when somebody brings it up today because it's just been so discredited over.
I always thought that 9/11 in some ways, like those conspiracy theories, were so obviously comfort stories.
Well,
Because there was like a way in which it was like pure government competence and cohesion.
and the political
Right.
fantasy too that like the final files are going to be released and like there's just going to be this like mass uprising.
That's the other
of
incredible
people.
thing about those conspiracy cultures. They posit the most like, because first of all, it's one thing to believe, and actually I think Matt Taibbi pointed this out well. Like, I'll accept the proposition that Bush and certainly Cheney, and say other senior officials in the Bush administration don't care about civilian life. Okay, sure. You don't have to argue hard to convince me of that. But that level of coordinated conspiracy would also implicate like thousands of government bureaucrats, like just like normal people like driving a fucking like mid-sized sedan to a government job to make like $80,000 a year and like eke away at a pension. They would have to just be like, oh yeah, I'm completely comfortable with just like a mass like public hoax that also results in like the death of thousands of people just so it can like set off a global chain of illegal wars. And I'm just like, that's just what I do.
That are tangentially related, right? Okay, so the plan is we're going to plant it on Saudis, and then we're going to use that to go into Afghanistan.
But it's not going to really be the Saudis, because actually in terms of like what we literally can do, we're going to get like all bin Laden family members out of the country immediately and do our best to actually cover up all links between the Saudi government and 9/11 planning. That we have to suppress, but we're also going to let it be like sort of a Saudi thing. And the real point is not to invade Afghanistan, of course, to invade Iraq. And we're just going to like, we're ruthless and effective enough to orchestrate a fake mass terror attack, but we're not good enough to plant convincing evidence that Saddam Hussein was involved in it, but we're just going to fucking do it.
In John Ronson's Them, when he goes around with Alex Jones and David Icke, Alex Jones calls David Icke a turd in the punch bowl.
Right.
And I sometimes, like, if I get conspiratorial about 9/11 conspiracies, I sometimes think that they are sort of rabbit holes that to send people down to
No, I think that there's a lot of, because think of the Adam Curtis example.
right. And I mean, Kissinger was on the world, what was it, the 9/11 commission initially, right? Like,
Well, he quit because even by those standards, they in order to stay on the commission, he had to disclose his lobbying clients, and he was just like, "Fuck that."
yeah, and so like there's
I'm
like shadowy
piecing.
shit going
Yeah.
on, but it wasn't a holographic airplane.
There's all sorts of shadowy shit. Well, the funny thing is like there's one level of like shadowy shit with like the Bush family and the House of Saud, and like there's lines to follow there that are really dangerous and sketchy, and and definitely, even a guy like Graham, Senator Graham from Florida, who was on 9/11 commission, total conservative Florida Democrat, he got as much as he could say on the public record. He was like, really bad stuff here involving the Saudis and things like that, right? But the other thing that was just so funny, and it's just also so true, I just think of so many things. It's like, the biggest crimes are all on the public record for everybody to see. Like, they invaded Iraq. They just did that shit. They, yes, they covered up torture, but not really. I mean, they lied and spin, but it's like the orgy of wealth inequality, of empire, like it's all out. And we all know, we all even know, just even on like a super progressive, basic progressive level, like You know what that the pharmaceutical companies and Wall Street and the arms manufacturers totally own Washington just with campaign contributions. That doesn't even require any research. I mean, it's like it's there. Like the conspiracies in that actual literal sense are in your face every single day.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. I was just thinking of something, if people are a little bit nerdy like me and want to check out, there's a really great interview of Alexander Cockburn on Book TV, and it's one of those where they sit down for like 2.5 hours
Right.
and they get phone calls.
Those are awesome.
Those are really good.
No, they're really great.
You
And
can
then-
learn a lot of history that way.
And the one with Cockburn is really great too. But it's really funny because it's like most of the call in all those calls, you get a lot of weirdos who call in, but like almost every other call for him was some like 9/11 conspiracy nut. And I feel bad for somebody like that because his whole life, right? He's like, they ran a couple articles in like 2002. And for the rest of his life, all of these like 9/11 truthers are sort of following around thinking that, one day he's going to flip and it's going to, join their side. It's pretty, it's pretty fun to watch.
I think Alexander Cockburn might be one of your archive sound clips for the illicit histories in the postgame, which are coming up. You're calling from a 647 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Bonjour, mes amis, ça va bien?
Hello. How are you? Bonjour.
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 Bonjour. I'm just calling because I know you're a little sad about what is happening in Brazil.
Yes, very.
And, I also speak English with a fairly flawless accent, so I'll switch to that. But I wanted you, because misery loves company, and you're feeling down about Lula and your president, I wanted you to know that we up here in the north are having our very own fun as far as whack job leadership goes.
Rob Ford?
You guys remember... Well, you guys remember Rob Ford?
Yeah.
With the Jon Stewart stuff. You saw all that.
Yep.
And something you probably didn't know is that he had a 657-page police report that was never, brought to a prosecution level. But beyond that, his brother, who was in power with him at City Hall, has now taken over the premiership of Ontario. And one of the very first things that he's doing is he's trying to gerrymander the city of Toronto by cutting its city council down from 52 seats down to 26.
Wow.
And as you noticed with the Kinder Morgan pipeline thing, we actually have a much better situation in our courts of law than you guys do down south.
Much better.
And Kinder Morgan was stopped in its tracks for now, at least. Telling the government that actually you have to obey the law. Well, we had something exactly parallel here, where our Trump, Doug Ford, was told that you cannot, just before the Toronto City Council elections and mayoral election, you cannot, have the City Council and gerrymander the districts to turn it into a conservative bastion. And the judge told him, no, you can't do that. You have to follow the law. Well, get this. Quote from Doug Ford, I will not respect what the judge ordered. I am going to make myself immune from judicial oversight by invoking the rule intended for emergencies, S33 of the Constitution.
Wait,
now,
what?
because this is the fun half, because this is the fun half, I don't want to belabor our Constitution and the exemption to the Constitution that Doug Ford is invoking here. All I want to tell you is you're not alone. We, too, are suffering. And by the way, Doug Ford is a huge Trump supporter.
Of course.
Surprise, surprise.
Well,
Anyway.
we're actually planning more Canada-centric coverage, actually. That's in the works on a variety of levels.
you guys have got it bad, but seriously, you don't have yet Donald Trump saying, I will not respect what the courts have ordered. I am going to make myself immune from judicial oversight.
No, that's fucking
You don't
insane.
quite
That
have
is fucking
that level
insane.
yet.
No, we're going to be on that, and I think it's incredible. What about the NDP? What's going on? How's Jagmeet Singh doing?
Well, unfortunately, I mean, this is something also that is very little known about Canada. Once you get outside the cities of Canada, it gets very white, very rural.
I think that's known about Canada.
I
think that's known about Canada.
And Jagmeet Singh, they really should have put Charlie in instead, who was the guy that I was stumping for. But they didn't. They put in Jagmeet Singh. And, I mean, you know, the NDP is, I mean, if you want to talk about political science, he's slightly, you know, left to center, maybe. You know, maybe slightly left to center. But the whole political spectrum, thanks to you guys, has been dragged so far right in the last 40 years that he's considered to be far left-wing.
Right.
But he's not. He's like Bernie, right? He's,
you know, Bernie's like, not far left at all.
You know, he's well, he's not even as far left as FDR, for fuck's sake.
Right.
You know, and it's like Corbyn. You know, it's
well,
like
that's
Corbyn
that's
the
the global pattern that we have to overturn and reset, and that's part of our project
exactly
here.
Right. Like, you know, this is something that Galloway actually does well on his Friday night show. You know, he says that Corbyn is right of Harold Wilson, considerably right of Harold Wilson. You know, but that's just how far the political spectrum is swung. But anyway, this is all supposed to be fun stuff. So I just wanted you to know that you're not alone. We too are suffering up here in the north.
Well, let's reverse that suffering.
One really positive thing that has come, because a lot of bad things have come from you to us, but one really positive thing has come from you to us, and that's Kawhi Leonard.
You bastard.
We are going to
you son of a bitch.
LeBron.
All right. Well done. I was about to co-sign with a Lula Libre with you, but instead stuck it to us.
I'm happy Kawhi is out of San Antonio.
Why?
I don't think he's being respected.
There's a little thing called respect. Kawhi was not getting in San Antonio.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't really follow that situation, but I don't know. Get him into New Jersey.
I'm going to have to ask Waz. All right, question from Bryce. Never forget that today is the 1-year anniversary of Ted Cruz exposing himself as an incest porn fan on Twitter. Question from Soy Captain. We're going to have to go around the horn on this one. Hey, Mike, did you see that Tulsi Gabbard shouted out Jimmy Dore on Joe Rogan? I think she might single-handedly deliver his dum-dum viewers to Democratic candidates. Brings me to my question here. Is dum-dum left still best? I don't understand. I never thought it was best. I didn't even know that Tulsi Gabbard was on Joe Rogan.
I'm pretty sure the Ted Cruz porn thing wasn't. His mom's...
Wait, no, you're going to have to finish that thought. Stop giggling to yourself.
I was going to try to make a correction. Well, I mean, it's very silly, but I don't think it's technically incest because I think there was a stepmother involved. Imagine Ted Cruz arguing that in a court of law.
Yeah, it wasn't incest. I'm imagining you arguing in a court of law right now, buddy. Jesus. That was very Peterson of you. You need to be very precise. In order for it to be bloody incest porn,
slander, I am going to sue you.
In order for it to be bloody incest porn, it has to be an actual mom.
He also pirated it from Reality Kings, apparently.
I think that, look. Yo. That's fucking nauseating. Beto O'Rourke needs to win that race just so nobody needs to see Ted Cruz's face again. Like on an incredibly basic human level. I mean, look, I think Tulsi Gabbard, we're going to have to probably start talking about her more as we head into 2020. But, I mean, Tulsi Gabbard is sketchy as fuck. And I don't understand why it's so hard for people to get it. I mean, I think that she exactly actually is almost the perfect meeting point of why she would appeal to a dumb audience. And I kind of, I'm a little bit, I think, like, Dumb Left definitely applied to, a lot of the arguments coming out of Jimmy Dore in 2016. At this point, I don't watch enough Jimmy Dore, but I watch very little. But with this sort of like feints to Tucker and with Tulsi Gabbard's like unapologetic connections to the Hindu far right, I'm not even going to use left there anymore. This is just fucking stupid populism that gladly throws out key issues of racial justice for sort of fake cross populism that will never fundamentally end war, will never fundamentally rein in corporations. That's going to happen through actual left politics, not dumb cross promotion on Twitter. And Tulsi Gabbard, I think she does some great things in Congress with regards to the environment. I get her appeal in some ways, but she's real sketchy. And she's got serious questions to answer about the Hindu far right, about her relation to the military, about her policies on refugees. And if you're not serious about answering to those questions, then there's whole categories of military, industrial, and essential human rights issues that you're just not taking seriously, and you shouldn't be calling yourself left in the same way that you shouldn't be like, Tucker Carlson is saying bad things about fucking Amazon, even though he doesn't actually propose any concrete policies to mandate government action or empower unions. He's clearly just doing fake populism to appeal to fucking idiots like me, and then also doing an end run to please our aspiring dictator fucking idiot president who also hates Jeff Bezos on a personal level. Sorry once again for never thinking structurally. And another thing that I will say about Jimmy Dore is that this motherfucker, for his whole 2016, was like, I want to have an ugly face and ugly policies. No more fucking charming of the Democrats and Obama. I want Donald Trump doing all these fucking horrible things to immigrants and everything. And first, in and of itself, it was stupid at the time because he wasn't making the obvious distinction between a horrible neoliberal Democratic Party, but the reality of Supreme Court appointments, the Iran deal, different immigration policies. You already know all this stuff. You're smart people. But now that Trump is in office, I see this guy running interference on Trump on an almost daily basis. And in 2018, it's almost as if the only people that still think that Obama and Clinton still run the country are Donald Trump, Alex Jones, and Jimmy Dore. And I see this guy every day going, well, what about fucking Hillary? And what about MSNBC? I don't see... Well, now you see how fucking horrible it is. Let's fight Trump. I see Tucker Carlson's anti-war. So I see a very, 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 very sketchy as fuck business model. And in the best case scenario, you're talking about a stupid political illiterate. Best case scenario. There's worst case scenarios that get a lot more sketchy. And, you know, it's a fucking bummer for me, honestly. I mean, I had nothing but nice personal dealings with Jimmy Dore, and I gave Jimmy Dore, even though obviously I personally argued with him on shows, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt probably far longer than I should have. But as soon as you did out of the gate, the post-election, it was like, look, because I genuinely had that stance. Even if you were reckless and stupid in terms of your voting advocacy, if you on day one were like, all right, it happened. Now I'm going to test my hypothesis. Now I'm going to focus on the fascist threat that's in office. He didn't do that. The guy, you go, look, it's 99% content bitching about Obama. And not even to contextualize the neoliberal order that brought us where we are. Just literally to do whataboutism. And it's fucking garbage.
It's very revealing.
It's very revealing.
So I say vote third party, no matter what, no matter where you are. I don't care if you're in a swing state.
Fucking stupid. Fucking disastrously stupid. You're calling from a 518 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Michael. Dave from Jamaica.
Dave from Jamaica. How are you?
Hey. I'm a little depressed like you with the Lula thing. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I hear you.
Certain
I mean, look.
Certain things I'm reading.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, even if the candidate he's telling us to vote for wins, the military is making certain noises that tells me it doesn't matter anyway. If they have to, they'll do their actual coup if necessary.
I think it's possible. I wouldn't assume that. I wouldn't get too overly down because I think there's a lot of reasons why that won't happen. But it's not inconceivable. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the whole stabbing thing? As in, there's been I saw the clip, and to be fair, if you get stabbed with an ice pick or something, you're not going to bleed. But there was a little bit of a rumor mill going on that he might have faked his own stabbing, or is that more just the desperation of the situation?
I don't know. I saw that, and I know I actually had a contact in Brazil kind of float that. I generally, I mean, look, for better or for worse, I generally don't. I think that a crazy guy stabbed him.
You kind of got to go by the public appearance until there's evidence to the contrary, right?
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think. And I also think that, again, his rejection numbers have gone up. Like, I think there was
because he's an odious human being.
Well, he's an odious human being, but I also think that in addition to that, I think that what's interesting is that I read that the way that registered was not sympathy. It was actually like, this affirms how crazy this process is. And this guy, by being a bloodthirsty, racist, sexist, homophobic, Stone Age, but also totally connected to capital and corruption, fascist, is part of what is wrecking this country. And I think that there's definitely, if you look at the polls, there's two candidates on the left. There's Haddadi, which is the Workers' Party Lula candidate. That's definitely who I would support, because I think that obviously it's a travesty and a calumny that Lula's not running, and Lula would win, and Lula should be the next president. And Lula is leagues ahead of anybody else, any other political figure in Brazil, leagues ahead of almost any political figure on the globe, frankly. But, Haddadi and Ciro Gomes. Ciro Gomes is a center-left candidate who served in Lula's government and actually, in some ways, is actually tougher on nationalization issues than Haddadi. They're climbing in the polls. And the Alckmin, who is basically the continuation of Temer, people hate him.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing, is they see what the Temer government has done. Temer government is a classic capitalist austerity catastrophe for everybody but the non-oligarchs. And they are hated, and there's a lot of buyer's remorse about even the whole farce of removing Dilma Rousseff to begin with. And, and it's not that long a memory either to, like, the military dictatorship collapsed in Brazil in 1986. That's really not that long ago. And I think, there's also a perception amongst some of the elite in Brazil, and they're willing to do all sorts of bullshit and play along with this travesty and farce that they've done with Lula. But there's still some sense of, we still want to be able to go to a certain type of cocktail party in New York, right? And a military coup would invalidate that. So,
to switch on to another topic, where I hear a lot of folks talking about that. Well, at the end of the day, we might have to do physical violence to stop the capitalist machine and so on. But also have to remind people we shouldn't be dumb about it. Kind of like right wingers are like, we just need to get armed, because at the end of the day, if you look at military conflicts or revolutions, you have to have the people backing you and good actual military tactics. Merely having a gun in your cabinet ain't going to do shit.
It's not going to do shit. I think I like the attitude of people on the left getting a little bit more like militant in their outlook, and this idea that I think the idea that like the left are always passive recipients of violence is not healthy. And I think there is some really interesting writing on the left and guns and challenging some of the kind of liberal neurosis and orthodoxies that are really worth exploring. At the same time, for a variety of practical reasons, I mean, obviously, like, every single structural barrier is against the left from, the perspective of arms and violence. And also, and it's just not the historical moment we're in. There's not going to be an armed revolution or insurrection in the United States. And in recent history, the models, in the United States specifically, that have attempted to do that, I mean, things like the Weather Underground, I mean, I'm sorry, this is not that's not serious. That's silly. And you end up, killing a security guard, and it doesn't contribute anything. So we also need to be real about that. That's kind of the balance. Yeah.
But also, don't forget.
No, I go ahead, Mr. Griscom.
Yeah. Don't forget, just like the Weather Underground's one example, but also, there were groups like, for example, the Black Panthers, right? Where like arms.
But they didn't really do much. Like they had
Well, they
arms,
had them, and, like,
but they didn't engage.
But let me flesh this out
violence,
for a second.
Though.
Let me flesh this out for a second.
I'll flesh it out for a second.
Because that's the difference, right? Is like they had an idea and the reason for why symbolically it was important for Black people in America to have weapons on some level symbolically versus Weather Underground, which was at the end of the day, that's the difference between a more Marxist approach and anarchist approach. It's like anarchists fundamentally believe that a certain event or individual act is going to create kind of insurrection or rebellion versus something that's a little bit more material, which was what the Black Panthers were much more influenced by Marxist writing, Marxist thinking, which is why their solution in Chicago, which was much more practical and beneficial.
Definitely. No, I agree with that. And so I think there's something to be learned. Forget the violence, forget revolutionary fantasies about violence, and it's just not it wasn't the material social conditions of the United States in the 1960s, let alone today. But I do think that something about the idea of people on the left, whether it's like training physically or maybe even being comfortable with firearms in just even like a defensive way, just as a notion that like it's not always going to be people on the left who are like the part of the political population that are like, the weenies basically. I think would be a that would be a healthy evolution. I think the distinction that Grisham made is smart in terms of that.
Just for something fun. There was a really big debate in the Soviet Union with Trotsky and a lot of other folks initially after the revolution began about whether or not there was a Marxist military science. Because Trotsky did something that was very controversial, where he actually incorporated a lot of former generals and commanders from the Imperial Army into the Red Army.
Right.
So basically just let people who were attacking workers 4 or 5 years ago who weren't necessarily Bolsheviks lead armies. And Trotsky's argument was that and because other people were wanting to have an army that had no hierarchy, no leaders or anything like that, like a pure democratic army. And Trotsky's like, that's not how you're going to win wars. And there isn't a Marxist military science. Actually, military science is its own form.
Well, famously, didn't the Spanish Civil War have similar sort of experimentation with like hierarchy-less military brigades and stuff like that?
And that created a lot of issues.
Some issues.
Created a lot of problems. They discovered that if they were going to fight a war, they couldn't act like a bunch of goddamn hippies at a hot tub in Sausalito. If you want to fucking kill people and fucking win, some people are needing to tell other people what to fucking do, and you can't be a little bitch about it.
That was Trotsky's letter.
that was right-wing Mandela channeling
Direct
Trotsky. Thanks for the call, man. Much appreciated as always.
Problem.
You're calling from a 646 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
You must have known I was calling in because you talked about my man right there and then.
Right.
Because I'm like, this is supposed to be the fun hour, right?
And it hasn't not been fun. We did 15 minutes on fucking Jordan Peterson and cider. I can't help it if people ask some serious questions, but we're having fun.
First of all, don't be cussing at me. Who are you talking to? Anyway.
Okay.
Hi, Michael.
Hello, Monique. It's great to hear you.
Thank you. I wasn't going to call in, but I'm like, yes, I need some happiness today. Like, thank you.
You are welcome. It is my pleasure.
Thank you.
Happiness is part of the struggle, right? We can't be all just running. They want us running around depressed and anxious and overwhelmed, but we can actually enjoy our lives and defeat all of these fucking people. We can do that.
You know what? And that's what makes them angry, because we actually enjoy ourselves.
That's right.
And who wants to live in Tucker Carlson's world with no diversity? Come on. Like, seriously?
Even with the ice cream.
Yeah, even with all the frozen food money. Yeah, look at that guy's neck. I wouldn't trade that neck for a trust fund. Fuck that.
And don't get me started that you got to tell people to clean your room, Jordan Peterson. Like, your book's going to be entertaining. I can't wait for it to come out. Because I'm like, Really? Seriously? What did Chris Rock said? What do you want, a cookie? Like, that's what you're supposed to do.
I've thought of that routine so many times.
Like,
when I think of the clean room
like,
thing,
yeah.
I think about that a lot.
Like, you have to wipe your behind. You have to take a shower. Like, people have to tell you to do this.
I think, unfortunately, there are a lot. Well, actually, wait, that's the wrong impression. Sister Monique, I think you and I both know that there's a lot of caucasoids who do need to be told that. Because they're corroded, genetically modified devils. They were created by Jacob in a cave, and they don't care for themselves. And now this crying devil's coming out, trying to teach them salvation. Meanwhile, it's just more pigmentation. It's disgusting. But let me tell you something.
But I'm sorry. Yes, but I have a question for Obama.
Yes.
But shouldn't they know better by now after 8 years of you in office?
Sister,
well, I guess
sister,
not, because they put Trump in office after, right? So
how are they going to know when it goes against their
learn,
true nature to know? Does the pig live in filth?
So they weren't.
Could the pig know better if you took the pig out of its sty? So I try to speak in parables so we can understand the unchanging truths. But let me tell you something. There is a I can't even call him a devil. That savvy brother Michael Brooks. That book he's writing on them is gonna
ask you about him.
It's gonna hit Jordan Peterson like cold cider. What?
Is he a spy, brother Obama? Is he? He might be like a triple spy. Right?
We gotta monitor him closely, sister. It's very rare.
Needed that.
We gotta monitor him closely.
Thank you, Michael. I needed that. Thank you.
Follow him closely at the West Indian Day Parade. See how he's dancing. See who he's with. It's very suspicious how well he moves in front of the Haitian truck.
He is Jacoby. I mean, I can't help the way he dances.
Thank you, Monique.
Have a good night, Michael.
Thank you so much. Keep laughing. Talk to you soon. Wait, what? We have more Jordan Peterson?
Oh, I was just pulling up some screenshots of him.
just of him looking particularly devil corroded.
Just him and his physiognomy.
All right, you know what? We got to do this. We have to do a little Rogan and Elon Musk. And then we got to do a little, we're going to take on the whole fucking cabal of them, because then we've got some Dave Rubin insight to get to. What part of this is Rubin and Musk? Set this up for us, Matt.
This is right after Rogan asks Elon how he has all the time to do things like the flamethrower.
Oh, there's a lesson in this for us. This actually reveals a big problem about capitalism here, right?
Yeah, but the funny thing is the way there's some sensitivity they both are aware of, obviously, because Rogan makes it clear that he's not saying like you should be focusing on more important things, right? Like they both make clear that he didn't spend that much time on this. But the general gist is basically like to build Elon up as this sort of Superman that does all these projects, right? And so let's hear it.
I do engineering and manufacturing and that kind of thing. That's like 80% more of my time.
Ideas and then the implementation of those ideas.
That's like hardcore engineering, like designing things,
Right.
Structural, mechanical, electrical, software, user interface, engineering, aerospace engineering.
But you must understand there's not a whole lot of human beings like you. You know that, right? So you're an oddity.
Yes.
To chimps like me.
We're all chimps.
Yeah, we are.
We're one notch above a chimp.
Some of us are a little bit more confused. When I watch you doing all these things, I'm like, how does this motherfucker have all this time and all this energy and all these ideas, and then people just let him do these things?
Because he's a billionaire.
Because I'm an alien.
That's what I've speculated.
Yes.
I'm on record saying this in the past. I wonder.
It's true.
I mean, if there was one, I was like, if there was like maybe an intelligent being that we created, like some AI creature that's superior to people, maybe he'd just hang around with us for a little while like you've been doing and then fix a bunch of shit. Maybe that's the way.
I might have some mutation or something like that.
You might. Do you think you do?
Probably.
Do you wonder? Like, you're around normal people, you're like, You're like, what's up with these boring, dumb motherfuckers? Ever?
Not bad for a human, but I think we'll not be able to hold a candle to AI.
You scare the shit out of me when you talk about AI.
Okay, that is so terrible. If you don't see the non-subtle fascistic overtone of that, then you're not listening.
He literally talks about his genes being different from the normal human being.
Literally. He just said that. That isn't us being haters. But this just, I mean, you pointed this out before, Matt. Like, the whole idea, it's like, you get to do that because you're a billionaire, because you have capital behind you, and because you have a workforce that you don't even let organize and unionize that gets to play out your fantasy life, some of which succeeds, many of which doesn't. That's why.
Yeah,
anybody could sit in a room and sketch out designs in a notebook. If they didn't have material resources behind them, it would just be fantasy.
I just think about the way like a professional athlete would respond to a question like that.
Right.
And they would immediately, even like some of the more arrogant ones, would throw to how good their team is, right? Like, oh yeah, I didn't spend so much time on that torch thing because I have a very capable team in like the flamethrower department or whatever, right? Like, you give some shine to other people, for Christ's sake. And and that's why we played that, investor call where he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm working 120-hour days and I'm just...
Because that's the corollary. The egomania of that delusion actually crushes him as an actual human being with requirements that he sleep, hopefully see a psychiatrist.
But can you name another engineer at any of his companies?
No, of course not.
Well, that's the thing about Elon Musk at the end of the day, is that he has literally made a career now out of just piggybacking off of the achievements of others. Think for a second about the name of his fucking car company. Yeah. Tesla, right? Like that's an actual genius inventor who was destroyed by capitalism, by the way.
Right.
That he's acting like, he's in that vein. And he has all of these companies that are all built off of technologies that other people created. And he has a hard time figuring out if he wants to be known as like the orchestrator who understood how to get the right people in the room. But he doesn't do that. He goes on these fucking shows and acts like he's inventing everything that's all these technologies.
And it's embarrassing. No person should let anybody praise them like that in a public appearance without getting embarrassed and throwing to team. The way he's being praised is just, in fact, it's funny. I contrast with Steve Jobs a lot, and Steve Jobs, who I would both hold as obviously far more influential and far more impactful and probably far more just sort of personally cruel in terms of his just aggressive lack of regard for human beings and the environment and all forms of animal life. But on the level of Steve Jobs, the showman and PR guy, and for all of his reputation of massive egomania, never. That guy would immediately pivot to going actually what you said. I know talent, and Apple, we've created this incredible team.
Johnny Ive, these guys, right?
Yes. Steve Jobs, yes, Johnny Ive, you obviously know Woz. He would do that. And he was the maniacal narcissist par excellence of this industry. That's really bizarre. And actually maybe it's even less to trash on him, frankly, because that is the type of thing, that response reveals all the problems, but it also, that's where it gets a little bit, even from me, icky of this guy might really be just kind of off in his read on certain things. I don't want to trash him for that. I want to trash him for being an overhyped government contractor who busts unions who a bunch of aggressive, annoying nerds have invested delusional hopes in. But I don't want to make fun of him for not reading situations properly.
Look, we talked recently about what's appealing about that, and what I listened to from that website or from that interview is when he talks about the sort of engineering feats that they do, like the sort of digs and stuff, that stuff is interesting in a sort of A&E sort of way, like those sorts of TV shows, right? Like these are the greatest engineering marvels of the 19th century. And he doesn't realize that, like, it's like a kid being interested in, like, the dump truck outside, right? And the dump truck driver thinking he, like, invented dump trucks for everyone, like, or like, right? Like, it's very, like, that's what Elon Musk is.
No, I think that's perfect. There's a new.
And his stuff with AI is just unfucking believable too.
The confidence about merging with AI.
Yeah, it's just like the way that he acts like he's like a real player in this science that's going on. Like,
well, Corey Pine definitely is like AI and singularity is definitely the religion of Silicon Valley.
Oh.
It's like the commonly accepted like omega point.
It's
of
the
humanity.
transcendental.
Yeah,
this is all archetypal stuff.
Yeah, it's the transcendental, death-defying wish of Silicon Valley oligarchy.
Oh, no doubt. But I mean, just like the way that he talks about it as if, he himself is, the mastermind behind of all these.
Right. When of course there's all these actual people in the field doing it.
From the Discord, how important is Mark's, this is from Skippy Longstock, and how important is Mark's cult of personality to securing funding and raising Tesla stock prices? Well, I mean, it's been a liability recently.
Yeah, now it's become a liability. But that's also just even just actually in a really narrow, in a business sense, it's a good lesson on why you should never, I mean, there are always, superstar CEOs, but like you should not build valuation based off of one personality. Again, in a much more venile way, like Apple got away with just lying about stock backdating, which is a crime, lying about Steve Jobs' health. And there was a theory that, there's banks that were too big to fail, and that he literally, as a CEO, was too important to fail in like one of America's most important corporations. I'm thinking of, do you think right-wing Mandela could become Rogan? You think there could be just like, you must not even fucking sleep.
I think that's good, actually, he starts taking.
Are you just like a
classes.
fucking, all right, so guys, you want to fucking perform better? On it. It's the most essential dense nutrients in the universe.
So what does he sell? What does Rogan sell?
So he sells health supplements and kettlebells.
Yeah, we should.
You know
actually,
my fucking kettlebell workout? Elon Musk, are you a fucking alien?
We should just play the first, skip through the first couple minutes of Rogan's podcast because it's all ads. It's pretty astounding.
Are you a fucking alien, Elon Musk? You're a fucking alien.
I've been working on some powder mixes and vitamin supplements myself that we might need to be getting to.
Oh, TMBS, believe me. Not only are the shirts coming, we're going to give you a whole fucking Marxist warrior lifestyle.
Oh, friends.
Yeah.
Toronto, September 29th. The date has
Okay,
moved.
so the dates, that's
Tickets
fine.
are now on.
Like, what about seismic? It's like,
And Boost lets you get instant discounts every single time you swipe
This
your
is
cash
3
card.
minutes in?
Coffee shops, at Chipotle,
Wow.
Shake Shack. Download it for free.
4 minutes in.
And enjoy. And last but not least, we are brought to you by Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is the best all-in-one whole food supplement that you're ever going to find. It's the most complete whole food supplement.
It is the best
Thanks for
all-in-one
100%
whole
fire.
food supplement you'll ever get.
I mean,
It will completely re-engineer your whole fucking productivity.
I feel bad when we have like 3 mid-roll ads on.
Right.
Like,
You ever talk to Sam Harris? That guy's a fucking genius.
listen, everything you're putting in your body, whether it's information or supplements, you get it from this website. Don't trust anyone else.
Nutrition is information. It's information for your body. You're calling from a 217 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name's Andrew. I'm calling from Chicago.
Hey, Andrew, what's going on? What's on your mind?
Hey, well, first of all, I'm a new patron.
Oh,
so
thanks,
I just wanted
brother.
to thank you guys. I really love what you're doing.
Thanks, man. How did you find the show?
Well, I Majority Report.
Okay, cool.
I was commuting and work over the summer, and so I found it, started listening to it, and it was really interesting because I had never heard, I come from a very social democratic idea of conception of the world, and I really had never heard a different, more systematic critique of things.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to because I'm going to school up here in Chicago, and last week Daniel Ellsberg came to speak to my class.
Cool. Yeah.
Which was really interesting because he talked about Trump and made fun of him, which I thought was really funny. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous.
No problem. Take your time.
Really cool talking to you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Seriously. So Ellsberg, what did Ellsberg say?
Right. So basically, he was because the class it's about the presidency is like as an institution, and so he was talking about then basically comparing Trump to Nixon a lot, which of course, he would know a lot about.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I found really interesting about what he was saying was that there was like a current in the Nixon White House of that they should be doing stuff more public. Like Ellsberg said that if Nixon had like gone out with like the tapes that he had and like burned them on the lawn of the White House, then he might have gotten away with it. But instead got Congress, and so Trump doing everything out in the open was actually helpful for him, which I found interesting to hear about.
Sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. No, because Trump has obviously normalized the corruption and the insanity. That's true. So it's sort of like you get to a point where it's like, what can you reveal about this guy? Right? In a certain way, it's all transparent. And obviously, the structural bottom line is that the Republican Party doesn't care because their bottom line is giving rich people money. That's all they care about. And everything else is subservient to that. And as long as Trump is a useful instrument for that, they have his back 100%.
Yeah. Anyway, and then the other thing I just wanted to say is that, of course, last week Rahm Emanuel announced that he's not running for re-election, which, of course, in
Fuck
Chicago
Rahm Emanuel.
was really shocking news.
Fuck Rahm Emanuel. Fuck Rahm Emanuel.
Oh,
Rahm Emanuel is
absolutely.
a fucking scumbag. Rahm Emanuel should always be remembered for his role in covering up the murder of Laquan McDonald, I believe his name is. Please look that up. I don't have it in front of me. He was an
it's Laquan McDonald.
Laquan McDonald. He was an arch advocate of charter schools, friend of the financial services industry. He's pushed massive inequality in Chicago. He was an enemy of police reform. He was an enemy of the teachers. And good riddance. Rahm Emanuel is a fucking dirtbag and exemplifies the worst of every single tendency in modern capitalism in the Democratic Party. An arrogant, overrated political hack. Fuck him.
Obama had a funny statement on this that I just thought the word choice was revealing. It says, as a mayor, a congressman, and my first White House chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel has been a tireless and brilliant public servant. His work to improve our schools is paying dividends by helping our teachers and students achieve faster academic improvement than students in 96% of American school districts. Paying dividends, it's like, it's almost... it is funny. No,
I don't agree with it, but it's the right language frame. Thanks for the call, Andrew. Hope you call in again soon, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you. You're calling from a 406 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from? Hello? Hello? Oh, all right. You're calling from a 412 area code with the final call of the night. 412. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello?
Hello, you're on.
Yo.
What's up?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. What's on your mind?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's Carly from Los Angeles.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? In relation to your commentary on Jimmy Dore's commentary recently, I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are in regards to Kyle Kulinski and his kind of affinity for similar subjects that Jimmy Dore plays upon, especially his downplaying of the Russia connection with Trump. It just doesn't make sense to me why he won't look at any of the issues or connections between Trump and Russia there. He just denies it flat out, while he's on point with literally 95% on 95% of everything else he talks about.
Can
Like,
I tell
very
you
on point, very-
two quick things? Not to cut you off, but first I just have to be completely transparent, and this is not. I did a thing with Kyle a couple years ago. He's a really nice guy. I've seen some things that he's done that I like. I don't watch Kyle at all, and that is not. I actually basically don't watch pretty much any analogous content.
When you put out as much content as we do, consuming other people's content in the similar vein becomes, a bit redundant.
Yeah, it's like so a lot of the content that we consume is stuff that helps add to a different information base for this show, right? So it's not a knock on him. And obviously I would tell you if it was, but it's not. I just don't watch the guy's show. I think though, more broadly, especially like with this, this quantitation of how much we agree, to me, is not a helpful way of looking at it. Because with Jimmy Dore, I'm talking about a structural argument he's making. He in his own way, and actually I'll give him credit, he actually does a good job, even though I think it's destructive and stupid and wrong. He's framing an argument. He's telling you, here's how you should understand the world. And I think all of us are doing that in different ways. And I think some of us are more conscious of that, and it's more developed, and it's more sophisticated or less sophisticated. But, people even do that with like Sam Harris, right? And I'm not saying you're doing that, but they'll say, oh, how could you say that Sam Harris agrees with you about this or that or the other thing? And it's like, politics is not just like menu choices, right? Like, oh, well, we disagree on, torture or aligning with fascists, which is like actually foundational and structural, but we may agree on this or that thing. So that might apply to like, voting or choosing the lesser of two evils in an election. But when you're talking about media content and presenting ways of understanding the world, I don't think amount of this agreement on this or that an issue really matters. We're trying to forward ways of understanding how the world works and ways of going about making change. And actually, Jimmy Dore and I are at complete cross purposes. And, I think it's great. Cool. I know theory. Yeah, we agree on Medicare for all. We probably agree on any number of things, but that's totally secondary. It's also pretty secondary because, at least as far as I see, that's not his content. Most of his content is bitching about Obama and MSNBC. Which is sometimes correct and appropriate and right. Other times it's just literally disproportionate. And other times it's also done in a dumb way. Like, you can make the same criticisms in a way that is structural and indicts the whole system versus just having like a weird fixation on certain personalities. And that's, I think, the dividing line.
I understand where you're coming from, and feel like maybe you also want to be diplomatic to Kyle, but
no, I honestly can't comment because I don't watch his show.
Yeah.
I'm not trying. I don't.
Maybe I can.
And maybe that's not diplomatic.
Maybe I can explain because it's very similar to what I see going on with Jimmy Dore that you guys comment a lot on. So, maybe you guys can look into it and provide comments on it later. But anytime any connection or scandal comes up with Russia, Kyle immediately shoots it down and says anyone who thinks that there's any connection is crazy, and they're totally fixated on it. And it's, it's just so obvious that Russia's involved in this and that they are posing a threat to our democracy. They were caught interfering in election systems in the United States in 2016, and they're planning to do it again. And no one's doing anything about it. And when you have someone with such a following like that deflecting any attention away from that issue, it makes me feel like a little weird about it because I agree with him on so many other things. But I just wanted to see what you guys think about that. And if you ever get a chance to look at it later, I'd appreciate it.
I feel about that kind of how I feel about when people tell us to get mad about Glenn Greenwald. Like, I mean, I think Glenn Greenwald's body of work kind of gives him the ability to be obtuse about that specifically, and it doesn't really bothers me more to see him palling around with Tucker Carlson.
Right.
Like the Russia stuff. Like to be honest, I don't know what he said, and that's why this.
Yeah,
is
I don't know
difficult.
what he said, and I gotta say, I'm sorry not to cut you off, Matt. Go ahead.
Any
No, I heard you. I understand. Okay, I get
Well,
it.
I
I
mean,
get it. But I'm not as convinced as you that the Russia story is clear cut either. So I've said a million times that I think that people on both sides of it get really dumb. So I think to completely categorically deny it, there's a relationship there, is wrong and really just sort of fighting any number of evidence. On the other hand, I think the idea that Russia is in any way central to the 2016 election or even what's happening in America today, I think it's totally, I don't buy it.
Which is why I don't focus on it. I think
Yeah.
what Kyle's doing, and what some people do, is because they don't want to focus on it, they like try to minimize the importance of it. Maybe I don't know. Like what I'm saying, I don't know.
I don't think it's central to what happened in 2016. I'm saying that it is a threat. I'm not saying it's the central threat. The central threat is late-stage capitalism and rampant right-wing extremism, but they are posing a threat to our democratic system. But I'll let you guys go.
I would also say, I think the problem is focusing on it too much, because I don't know what the service is of us focusing on it. But I will say, if you're focusing on it in the negative way to say there's nothing, that's also a problem, right? Stop
That's
wasting your
also a
time.
problem. Just fucking wait till things emerge to actually talk about. And if you're trying to kill it and say, oh, no, it's not really there, that's ridiculous. And if you're saying, oh, no, it's the thing that explains everything, that's ridiculous. But I will say this. The only thing I'll say is I don't deal with people who are coming at me with absolutely insane, dumb shit who are coming from Kyle. I get people coming at me even today with insane, dumb shit who like Jimmy Dore. So I'm also just going to be followed by practicality here. You know what I mean? Like, if I started getting swarmed with people being like, they could just fucking double filibuster the Supreme Court and Tucker Carlson's fucking anti-war, and they were all like, I'm getting this shit from Kyle, then I'd be like, oh, okay, we got to look into that. But I'm not getting any of that from Kyle. So that's also what dictates it, honestly, is just like, where's the toxicity coming from? And I haven't gotten that from Kyle.
There's so much toxicity that we can't go around sniffing for news sources. We kind
literally we're fucking inundated. We're in like the golden triangle, like between the fucking dark web and fucking Jimmy Dore, not to mention like everything on Fox, MSNBC, and CNN. Like we're fucking, we got our hands full.
Yeah, I to be honest, I listen to Kyle like almost as much as I listen to you guys.
Oh, well, there you go. That's your problem. Now I can tell you. Now I get what
you're
the problem
here,
is.
sir.
You're the problem here, sir. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I don't have any problem with Kyle, and I can't comment, but I could tell you that obviously you should be spending more time listening to us.
Bring your
Come
attention
on.
time here, people.
Yeah, yeah. Jesus
Spend
Christ.
your attention dollars with us.
Yeah, you're owning yourself, dude. You're creating your own problems.
As much as I listen to you guys.
You're hurting your own attention economy.
I'm saying I listen to you guys more.
Okay, well, double up.
Apology accepted.
Apology accepted. Thank
All right,
you.
I'll double up.
Love.
I'll get on woke bros.
Love. Exclamation point.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks for the call, man.
Do you want another Discord?
Yeah, well, a couple more Discord questions, and then we are going to be on our way.
The left in Greece, how do you feel about them? Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, look, it's Syriza was obviously the power that that the Eurozone has over Greece and Syriza is immense. At the same time, and I don't even remember when this was. This was like back in 2015 now, right? Mm-hmm. When Syriza went to referendum and they said, if you back us in a grassroots moment, we will break with the Eurozone because they're continuing to torture this country with austerity. And we are the sole purpose of our party and voting for a radical break in Greek political tradition is that we will fight austerity. And we're going to go to you for this radical risk. And if you have our backs, we'll do something. And they won that vote. And then within 48 hours, capitulated to a whole different, another austerity package. That was disastrous. And I'm saying this with a real, like, I don't make, people know that I don't make like naive utopian comments about these parties and what they could or couldn't do. I understand that Syriza was under an enormous amount of pressure from structural forces when they came to power. But it seems to me that that specific move of going for a democratic mandate for a real radical resistance and then doubling down on capitulation, they're failed projects, and they're going to be, and it's going to be very hard for them to get reelected. They still have a shot because the Social Democratic Party is totally discredited, and obviously the center right is totally discredited. And then there is, as it seems to be everywhere else in the world, there is a serious fascist force in Greece as well.
I'd also just add, when think about the terms you're using too when you're talking about the left in Greece, because one thing that's really interesting about Greece as well is that they actually have a pretty vibrant left community outside of Syriza. You know, they actually have something that's, it seems like crazy in the US, like they have entire communities of, you know, communists and anarchists who sort of like are fairly like self-sustaining, and those are very interesting groups in Greece too. So like to talk about the left and their success or failures only in the context of Syriza, I think would be a mistake. But, you know, definitely, I mean, I agree with Michael completely with when you capitulate on that level. I mean, it's something that, like, when the KKE, for example, the Communist Party of Greece, you know, sort of opposed Syriza, that's what they said they, you know, were afraid would happen. And the KKE has a lot of material issues in their politics and what they were sort of proposing that they would do in that situation. But at the same time, you know, what happened with Syriza was just like a real failure and a really tragic moment. But at the same time, this is what Varoufakis' project has been on, is that at the same time, he does make the point that it would have been, you know, very difficult for Syriza to follow through on those moves, in that, you know, you have to deal with the European question.
And you need to democratize Europe.
Yeah.
And you need to socialize the European economy. And this is, I mean, Jeremy Corbyn doesn't have the same strictures that will be on him if he becomes prime minister, because, I mean, Greece really doesn't, as a poor southern zone country, doesn't, and as a part of the euro, it has very few sort of levers. But any left governance is going to face, at the very least, capital flight. So a left project, by definition, has to be a global project. Any more Discord questions?
Yeah, we can touch on this. Thoughts on the tale of Jeffrey Owens, former Cosby show actor, who was shamed for working as a cashier at Trader Joe. I have something quick. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like that whole conversation was cynically turned to that everyone was shaming this guy for working at Trader Joe's, which is not a shameful thing to have a normal job, obviously. But I think like the reaction was that, like, clearly that show made a lot of money and it probably didn't go into the right hands, right?
Well, I mean, partially, although he said himself, and he didn't say like with any, you know, he just literally was saying like the reruns being canceled basically seriously hurt his family's livelihood. He stopped getting residual checks.
Interesting. I didn't even think
so. Like, there are material consequences. It's like, you know, when the production of what's that stupid Netflix show that I never liked, House of Cards, when it comes out that Kevin Spacey's you know, probably some type of predator. I mean, you know, a couple hundred people in production and stuff lose their jobs. Like that's actually a whole other part, I think, of the conversation. Like, I personally would not cancel Cosby reruns. I mean, I would be interested in finding a way of, like, you know, obviously limiting the profitability of the Cosbys from that. But, like, partially, I don't think, like, I do in fact think you can, to some extent, sort of separate that show from the, you know, just utterly hideous human being that he was. And I don't think you erase history by canceling the show. And I also think when we take these actions, it is just always worth considering that, like, there are this whole sort of ancillary set of people that are actually really affected materially by these things.
Well, that's always why it explains, like, how do these things stay uncovered for so long? Well, it's that.
Well, right. That's the corollary of also, like, why the woman who played Bill Cosby's wife was, like, standing for him so hard. It's like, oh, yeah, I wonder why she might be interested in, you know, defending, like, a serial predator. But I don't know, man. I saw an interview with him and I was super impressed by him. And I think the reason it was it wasn't the way it was because they used unflattering pictures of him, because they ran it on Fox, like, look at this guy, now he's a fucking loser. They did. And also because of all the classism of this country and because of the innate disrespect for work of so many kinds. And in interviews, it was funny. He was like, I didn't have any problem working there. Like, it actually felt good to work there. And he said it was very honest reflection. He's like, I lost residuals. He's like, I booked acting gigs. They actually showed a clip of him on some like drama. And he's like, yeah, but if you get a gig every couple of months and you have a family, it's not enough money. So you get another job. And he's like, I didn't have any. He was like, I was happy to work there. And, you know, it's cool that people came forward, and it's cool that Tyler Perry's giving him a gig. And it was just kind of nice, I guess, to have somebody have this like pop culture moment who really did seem like a very thoughtful, nice person. That was kind of my thoughts on it. Anything else? All right, guys, we are gonna run. David Slavic, you're calling in too late. I already hung up on the phone system. Next week, brother. Thanks, everybody. This weekend, Illicit History of the War on Terrorism with Derek Davison. Fresh Woke Bros coming at you. A call this weekend for Comrade and Above callers. An AMA soon on the Discord. And so much more. Keep spreading the word. Keep sharing the YouTube clips. Thanks, everybody. Peace and love.